Alright, this is the third recording because the first one didn't record and the second one I forgot to do an intro. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name's Doodle. On my channel, I talk about whatever I want, but mostly true crime, anomalous stuff, SCP stuff, and writing. And today we're going to be talking about SCP stuff. So today we're going to be doing an SCP Iceberg, and I am so excited to finally get this video out because it took me almost a month to make, to research and everything. And in my defense, I had the holidays, I had school, I had final exams, all that stuff, and there are 56 pages. But anyway, because this YouTube channel is not already enough of a Wendigoon ripoff, we're going to make an SCP Iceberg, and I will link his down below because his Iceberg is extremely good. So, a lot of SCP Icebergs will either rank the SCPs as anomalies in whatever tier system they're using, or they will rank theories and stuff surrounding the SCP community. Mine will be the latter. This iceberg is based on how well known these things are, not necessarily how dark they are or anything like that. Also, there are a lot of things on this iceberg, so I won't be able to be too in-depth, but especially with some of the things that are more obscure, but I will do my best. Another note, some of these things reference video games, which are often but not always considered canon. I will do my best to make note of something when it's not considered canon. However, with an open universe like this, it's pretty hard to state whether something is canon or not. The original icebergs that I will be linking below may have certain things that I don't talk about, either because I couldn't find stuff about it, so I didn't just want to say blah, blah, blah. Okay, moving on, I couldn't find anything, because then you might as well just go look at the iceberg, because the icebergs don't have the information. It's just, hey, look at the stuff. The other reason might be because of the subject material, which I was able to glean from the name, that the subject material would be inherently sexual, which is not something I really want to talk about on my channel. That's not the kind of environment I want to create. And sometimes... Yes, words, yes. Another reason, maybe because it's part of how a game works with its intended use that is not added with a modifier. So it feels kind of silly just saying, yes, this thing, it's a part of a game. If there isn't anything else for me to add to it, so that'd be like me saying, oh yes, in Minecraft, you can right-click to do... right-click is whatever. You can click W to walk forward in Minecraft. It's just not interesting, or at least not to me. But before we get into that, what is an SCP? Well, SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, and it's an open universe where people can create whatever they want and put it in it. So it's kind of like H.P. Lovecraft, which we will get into later. So you can create anomalies and put them into a universe and give them context, and it's kind of like creepypastas in a way, but it has a lot of lore around it and a lot of video games and everything like that, which personally I find really fun. But enough rambling, let's get into it. Okay, so this is Tier 1. The first thing is Non-Standard Object Class. This refers to an object class that is not Keller, Safe, or Euclid. An example of this is Esoteric or Narrative Class. These are classes that are typically made up specifically for one or two anomalies because it does not fit into Keller, Safe, or Euclid. Normally they're only used for one anomaly, but sometimes they are used for more than one, however, not very common. The second thing is Groups of Interest. This refers to groups with an interest and or investment in paranormal activity. The Foundation is one of these, but when you hear Groups of Interests, it is normally associated with groups that are not the Foundation. Some of these groups have access to SCPs to research and experiment on them or whatever they want. Some groups are splinters of the Foundation, while others are allies or rivals. And some are just mute. They mute? What? They mute to the Foundation. They don't mean anything. They just... Okay, I can see where some conclusions could be drawn there. I'm not saying mute people don't mean anything. I'm just... a dumb 14-year-old who doesn't know how to form sentences. Moot. That was the word I was trying to say. I was trying to say moot. They don't matter to the Foundation. They don't mess with the Foundation. The Foundation doesn't mess with them. But whatever. The Foundation has a list of all groups of interest and a brief blurb about them. Because there are 35 groups of interest as of right now when I'm recording, which is 2022, I'm going to just leave a link in the description, or maybe the comments, depends on how long this comments and links or whatever get. But I will be talking about a few of these groups of interest later as they come up in the Iceberg. Okay, this one I really like. It's probably my favorite on tier 1. Things Dr. Bright isn't allowed to do. So Dr. Bright is a doctor who works for the Foundation. As you probably know, if you're into this SCP Foundation stuff, the Foundation is pretty lenient with their punishments, as good researchers are hard to find. Stuff that would normally get you fired are often shrugged off. With that in mind, this is a list of things Dr. Bright isn't allowed to do. Also, this page says that it isn't canonical, but it's too darn funny not to include. 1. Dr. Bright is not allowed near caffeinated drinks and is not allowed to ask others for caffeinated drinks. 2. Dr. Bright is not allowed to sneeze in front of anybody. 3. Dr. Bright is not allowed to play Five Nights at Freddy's with other staff members with mental issues, especially epilepsy. Being a MacGyver is not allowed, and Dr. Bright is also not allowed to recruit other staff and run around the Foundation, calling the Foundation the Phoenix Foundation. You can see why I find this hilarious. Teaching 049 to sing Ring Around the Rosie and then turning off all the lights around 049's containment chamber is a no-no. Dr. Bright is allowed to dab in private, but whenever around people and or in closed spaces, dabbing is considered dangerous and annoying. Yelling, "Get in the choppa," is not promoted. Dr. Bright is not allowed to use edible SCPs and then give them to a fellow staff marked as marketed aphrodisiacs. Dr. Bright is not allowed to enter SCP-3001. We have lost someone in it, Bright. We are very sure we don't want you to be lost in there, too. Dr. Bright is not allowed to edit the document on which these rules are written again. Dr. Bright is not allowed to view this document. Dr. Bright is not allowed to use nachos as bait for SCP-3000. And there are a few others, but those are visual jokes, so it's hard for me to speak them to you, Alright, on to Scramble Goggles. Scramble Goggles are used for Foundation members when they are encountering dangerous visual anomalies. These are SCP's dangerous anomalies, not Scramble Goggles, are anomalies that can do something if seen. For example, there are certain SCPs that gain powers when people see them directly, such as moving. These are just tools, nothing else really about them, but they're on the Iceberg, so wanted to include them. SCP-294 is Thomoclass. So Thomoclass is used to refer to anomalies that are used to contain other anomalies. 294 is a coffee machine that can produce anything in its liquid state so long as it has one for only 50 cents. I don't really understand the idea that it is a Thomoclass, as I couldn't find anything relating to it, like taking anything in or anything, but it was on the Iceberg, so if you know anything about it, please put it, please put it in the comments and I will pin it. Alright, Shy Guy. Oh, we love Shy Guy. Shy Guy is the nickname given to SCP-096. Shy Guy doesn't like to be photographed at all, and whenever someone tries to photograph it, it becomes very panicked, screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Then, Shy Guy will chase down the person who tried to photograph it and kill them, completely removing any trace of them. Shy Guy looks like a human, however, it is almost skin and bones and very tall. Its skin has little or no pigmentation and no body hair. Its eyes are blank, however, there is no sign of whether Shy Guy is blind or not. His jaws can also expand 4 times the amount of a human's, which is very fun. Moving on to Peanut, who we will be seeing a lot of 096 and a lot of Peanut later on anyway. So remember these, because I'm definitely not going to repeat them in case you forget them. Ha ha ha. Wouldn't that be funny? Anyway, Peanut is the nickname given to SCP-173 because, well, it looks like a peanut. As 173 is considered to be very hostile but cannot move when under the direct line of sight of someone. Personnel are instructed to warn others before blinking so a line of sight can be maintained. Personnel are also instructed to monitor movement and report any change but scraping sounds from inside the container when no one is in there is deemed normal. So, D-Class or D-Boys. D-Class refers to a group of people who are not paid and do not join the organization willingly. They are unlucky people who get tricked into bad contracts. It is maintained, for the most part, that these people are criminals who have committed horrible deeds. But let's ignore that ethical dilemma for now. D-Class are used to do unpleasant or potentially dangerous work. Whenever researchers are doing tests on possibly dangerous anomalies, they use D-Class until they can determine if the anomaly is safe and or how to prevent it from becoming violent. Because, like I said with Dr.Bright, good researchers are hard to find. So, SCP-914 is nicknamed the Clockworks. 914 is a large machine with input and output door. When you put something in the input slot and turn the key to select the level of refinement, the higher the level of refinement, the better the output. 914 seems to be degrading or refining the input, not creating anything new. So, rough often dismantles or destroys the item. Coarse dismantles items into more refined parts. 1:1, so I'm assuming that's 1:1, or something like that, ratios or whatever, if I remember math, gives an item of at least nearly equal use and function. Some properties might be slightly altered. Fine refines an item and usually improves it with an anomalous feature. And very fine usually gives a heavily anomalous version of the item. I couldn't figure out, why you wouldn't always put it on very fine, or, why you would use rough or coarse, because it doesn't seem to be you having to give anything to the clock, but, Doctor, because we love Doctor Who here. Doctors are the researchers who are in charge of, researching the anomalies. They serve many roles. Sometimes they take more of a caregiver role, especially if the anomaly is volatile and forms any emotional connection to them. But other times they serve a more detached role, typically with anomalies that react violently regardless of emotional state or who they are reacting to, such as Peanut or Shy Guy. Some anomalies are only volatile when in a bad emotional state, while others will react volatilely to certain behaviors. Doctors are there to figure it out and prevent it from happening. On to Tier 2. Containment Breach. So Containment Breach is actually a free video game. I don't know if it's referring to the video game or the term, but let's assume it's referring to the term. So a containment breach is whenever an anomaly is outside of its containment cell without permission. Normally this results in a lockdown until the anomaly can be retrapped. However, if the anomaly escapes the Foundation site where it is being held and there's no point in keeping a lockdown anymore, they will probably undo that because it helps save resources. All cards. So the cards are basically just security key cards. There are 12 of them, but there are 12, but some of them are not very common. The cards are most prominent in video games, and people who write the fandom typically don't mention them unless they're talking about being denied access to something or you need clearance card, whatever, to get into Room X. There are cards for the janitor, scientist, major, or senior scientist, zone managers, containment engineer cards, etc. I'm going to put a link down below. CASSIE, with all caps locks because it's an acronym, stands for Central Autonomic... Leave me alone, please. Central Autonomic Service System for Internal Emergencies. CASSIE is an automatic service system used to manage and mitigate emergencies that occur in Site 02. CASSIE makes announcements throughout facilities during emergencies. CASSIE is not a text-to-speech program. CASSIE can only say pre-recorded phrases said by a real human. Okay? We're getting on to the good stuff, okay? T-posing zombies. So this is referring to a glitch in a video game. I found some stuff saying, it was an April Fool's thing and they forgot to take it down or they couldn't take it down, but my most reliable source said that it was a glitch because all the other stuff was Reddit comments, and no offense to Reddit comments, but I'm going to trust the official website. So, yeah. Anyway, so it's referring to a game where people infected by SCP-049 turn into zombies. However, the glitch causes them to T-pose instead of acting like normal zombies. Now, while it's funny enough on its own, you gotta hear some of the comments on one of the websites asking about the glitch. Also, I'm quoting these exactly, so don't come at me in the comments for any any errors in the grammar. First quote, they assert dominance to the lower class humans. Look, SCP-094 is a Chad. His crew is protecting him. Second quote, and this one's a long one. Our god, T-Pose Larry, have sacrificed himself to save the game. Unfortunately, he, quote, died. But before he died, he created some creatures to keep T-Pose Larry alive. Those creatures are the T-Pose zombies. According to the T-Pose Bible, T-Pose Larry will come back one day before the apocalypse, but nobody knows when it will happen. Some people have believed that T-Pose Larry will come back on April 1st, 2019 during the April Fool's event, and consequently the game would have ended one day later on April 2nd, 2019, but it didn't happen. But some people are saying that T-Pose Larry will come back on July 4th, 2019 during the Independence event, but this is very improbable because the game is from Poland. Other people say that T-Pose will come back during the Halloween event, October 3rd, 2019. My parents are probably listening to me recording this being like, what is going on? Okay, probable apocalypse dates, July 5th, 2019, November 1st, 2019, January 1st, 2020, one day after the anniversary event, April 2nd, 2020. Source, the official T-Pose Bible. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, that's why I love this thing, the SCP Foundation. It's just so beautiful like that. Anyway, I'm going to link the website in the description so you can see all of these amazing comments. Okay, this one. I'm excited to talk about this one. Homophobic Knockoff SCP website. Leave me alone, I have a speech impediment. Homophobic Knockoff SCP website. So this just refers to some weird point in time. I think it's still kind of going on right now. I don't quite know. Where people were freaking out about the fact that the SCP site's logo was changed during Pride Month to show support for the queer community. Most people who were arguing against it said, well, it breaks the immersion, or why would a foundation that doesn't care about ethics or human beings show support for the queer community? But I think we all know what it's really about. Something I like shows support for a group of people. I have an irrational hatred towards it. I don't like them, and I don't want to see them supported in anything. Anyway, moving on with that, because I've already been told I'm going to hell, even before I had a single subscriber or video up. So no need to fan the flames. Anyway, moving on. There's this really great mini essay on Reddit that I will link below, but it is the best thing ever. Omega 7. Mobile Task Force Omega 7 is also called Pandora's Box. It is a specialized task force with the purpose of securing and containing supernatural, alien, and other phenomena. The Foundation uses humanoid anomalies to help mainly SCP-105 and SCP-09657. They have 10 to 12 members that function in groups of 5. Okay, so let me clarify that statement. The Foundation uses humanoid anomalies to help, and the main anomalies that help are 105 and 657, because when I was, rereading, I was like, hey, it sounds kind of like it's saying we're helping the SCPs. No, the SCPs are helping Omega 7. Anyway, 076 appears to be the main leader of this group. However, that really backfired when 076, quote, got bored in between missions and wanted to kill. 076 eventually managed to break his explosive collar. This forced the base personnel to set off one of their site nukes. Somehow 076 managed to survive, but was later recaptured. On-site nukes. What else do you want me to say? K-Class scenarios. K-Class SCP are anomalies that have the capability to cause the apocalypse. A K-Class scenario is a scenario that the Foundation has no ability to control or contain, so basically, we're screwed. Run for cover. X entries. My computer just decided to notify me that my default browser is Google Chrome. Yes, I know. X entries. This refers to entries in the Foundation anomaly catalog that are no longer anomalous. I found a great flowchart on Reddit in a thread, so I will link that below. Basically, did it lose its power? Okay. Is it dead? Okay. Yeah. Hidden text. Why did my voice sound like that? Ew. Hidden text. Hidden text refers to the fact that throughout the anomalies catalog that is, surprise, surprise, hidden, and you need to go about finding it in certain ways. Sometimes it's as easy as highlighting blank spaces, or you might need to cite the website's code or even download a browser extension to find it. I'm neither smart enough nor motivated enough to go and try and find some on websites. There are lots of Reddit threads, YouTube channels, SCP-designated blogs, and even entire websites devoted to hidden text in the SCP Foundation catalogs, so I'll leave that to them. Class D are recycled. Remember Class D, the people who are like criminals and whatnot, that they use them basically to, we might get killed, we're gonna send you in instead. Anyway, this refers to the fact that it's commonly believed that after 30 days, D-class are given amnestics, something to make them forget things, and sent back to prison. Thing is, there are so many people who are D-class out there. Remember, D-class are people who committed crimes like murder and unconsensual devil's tango. Not everyday people. And while there are a lot of those people out there, there just aren't enough to sustain the Foundation's need for them. This theory suggests that instead of being returned to prison, they're given amnestics and sent to another site, or not given amnestics and shipped off to another site. This way, they are effectively recycled and used in other sites instead. I honestly think this theory is totally in line with what we know of the Foundation to be like, and I think it's a really interesting idea. There are also some theories that suggest the D-class might be fed to anomalies that require humans to survive, but that doesn't mean both can't be true. Obedient or lucky D-class might just get sent to another site while D-class that are a pain in the butt are fed to anomalies, which is the other recycled theory. Oh gosh. SCP. Okay, we're going back to Shy Guy and Peanut in a row again. I didn't plan that. Okay, so Shy Guy is the one that doesn't like getting pictures taken, so he goes scream, kill. Anyway, this refers to the only case of someone surviving 096's rampage as far as I could find. 096 managed to escape at one point in a cold environment requiring Mobile Task Force Zulu 9 to find and capture it. During the incident, Zulu 9B was annihilated as 096 turned around while they were trying to place a bag on its head. The only survivor was Captain Redacted, who was rescued by Zulu 9A, who also recaptured 096 without further incident. Redacted retired and was interviewed by Dr. Dan about the details of his team's massacre. And on to Peanut. Okay, anyway. Basically, this SCP-173 is a real sculpture. Refers to the sculpture that looks an awful lot like Peanut that was, made before Peanut was. So this is basically saying, hey, maybe the person who made Peanut was inspired by this statue. And that's about it. The sculptor was Izumi Kato. Please don't kill me. I'm not good at names. I'm sorry. And it was made in 2005 and is either called Untitled or is Untitled. All I could find was the little subtitle saying Untitled, but all of the ones on that website were, so I think that means they were just untitled artworks. But yeah, this one does look like Peanut, and I will link it below. Clearance level 6. This is the highest level of clearance in the SCP Foundation, even above the O5 Council, which we'll get into later. Actually, we're getting into it right now. I can't read my own scripts. If you don't know who the O5 Council is, they're the council that runs the Foundation. But anyway, what does clearance level 6 mean? Well, it means you have access to potentially worldview-shattering concepts. The Ethics Committee is allowed access to this information, but besides that, the O5 Council and the Administrator are the only people who can gain this level of clearance. I couldn't find it if the Ethics Committee was given amnestics after they judged if the decision was ethical or not, but I'm assuming they were. Documents marked Cosmic Top Secret are available only to people who are clearance level 6 and the O5 Council. Don't even always share the files with each other because of the risk they can pose to other council members. For example, there was one SCP or thing concept idea that was classified as an SCP, that the afterworld is what you think it is. Therefore, if you know that, when you die, you'll know that the afterlife isn't real, so you won't have one. So you can't know that, right? So everyone was given amnestics. It's too dangerous to tell other people. And on to the last one for this recording, because I'm going to bed. SCP-343 is actually God. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a theory or if it was confirmed. I don't know if this was supposed to be a theory, but if it was confirmed. It's a known fact now. Anyway, who is SCP-343? Well, 343 is an omnipotent, raceless being who can easily warp reality. But Doodle, isn't that something that would fit under Cosmic Top Secret? Even though the Foundation has the ability to contain other reality-warping entities, they have deemed containment for 343 impossible. He is also assumed... he is the assumed creator of the SCP multiverse, which is just like it sounds. He is believed to be the Abrahamic god and even says certain things are not his creation, adding to the idea that he is a god, and that there are gods in the SCP universe. Alright. Memetic kill agents. Memetic kill agents are memetic agents that kill. They're used to safeguard classified information if either the person does not have clearance or if amnestics are not believed to be sufficient to keep the information classified, or it is too difficult to administer amnestics. They normally function via causing cardiac arrest, a brain aneurysm, or sudden organ failure. My parents are, in the other room. They're just going to hear me recording this, be like, what is wrong with our child? Okay. SCP-000. If we have all these numbers, some going up into the thousands, we have to have a very first SCP, right? And would that be SCP-000? Right? Well, we don't really know. There are lots of different kinds of SCP-000 proposals, similar to the SCP-01 proposals, but we don't actually know what SCP-000 is or if it exists. It's believed that this is because if it does exist, 000 is an anomaly that grows stronger as people think about it. Because of this, no one really talks about it. The general consensus from what I could find was that SCP-000 either was an empty void or had the ability to go into that empty void or put people into that empty void. But there's no definitive answer for what SCP-000 is. Alright, on to Tier 3. Yay! Procedure 12 is standard protocol. So Procedure 12 basically allows the Foundation to derive recruitment from other sources like political prisoners, the refugee population, and other civilian sources. This is reserved for situations where the Foundation is under duress. However, this theory poses the idea that maybe Procedure 12 is always active and the Foundation just says it so people will A, continue to work with them, and B, not revolt against them and destroy the Foundation, and C, they won't get arrested for human rights issues, but the SCP is generally agreed to be, the Foundation's generally agreed to be a shadow organization anyway, so I doubt they care about that. The origins of SCP-106's original image. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So this is referencing to the fact that the original image for SCP-106 is not known. Let me rephrase that. We have an image that practically everyone accepts as the original image for the SCP. We don't have confirmation, and we don't actually know who made it. I'll link it below. Dr. Cleff's face. So Dr. Cleff is one of the researchers in the Foundation and is often called the most mysterious person in the Foundation who's not on the O5 Council and is considered one of the Foundation's indestructible and invincible immortal members of the Foundation, kind of like Dr.Bright. Dr. Cleff is extremely brutal and is known for, quote, decommissioning anomalies. He also doesn't mind wasting innocent lives. Well, but what about his face? Well, for some reason, Dr. Cleff's face can never be photographed. Instead, his face is always swapped with the face of a random animal, and no one knows why. 0514. So, the 05 bit refers to the 05 Council, and the 14 refers to the person's placement on the Council. So, you've got 051, that's the one person, 2, that's the second person, 3, on, and 14. But the 05 Council consists of 13 people, right? Well, 14 stands in for 13 when they cannot vote or when a tiebreaker is needed. 14 does not ever replace a council member when they vote, and they can also choose to abstain from voting, even when acting as a tiebreaker. So who is 14? Well, like the rest of the O5 Council, we don't really know. There are some proposals for who they could be, but we cannot confirm it. SCP-294 can cause a 2K class scenario. So a 2K class scenario is a scenario with an anomaly of high danger escapes containment and or cannot be contained. And an X class scenario is when one of those anomalies or their abilities becomes unpredictable. Okay. SCP-294 is the coffee machine, if you remember. I have no idea what this means other than the fact that SCP-294 could cause a 2-class scenario. However, how it would do so, I know nothing about and could not find it. Dr. Wondertainment is the SCP writer. I love Dr. Wondertainment and I love this theory. Anyway, Dr. Wondertainment is a name given to an entity that operates separate from the Foundation. They're on the Heroes Wiki, but they really aren't all that good. However, they really aren't all that bad, so Dr. Wondertainment's real identity is not known. However, there are several theories, including the idea that they might be SCP-001. Anyway, I'm just going to be calling them Doctor because I'm too lazy to type out their extremely long name and I'm just reading my script. So it's unclear whether or not Dr. Wondertainment, no, because when I say doctor, it feels like I'm talking about Doctor Who. So it's unclear whether or not Dr. Wondertainment is a reality-bending individual or a company that creates toys and gadgets that show anomalous properties. This theory states that if Dr. Wondertainment's toy factories aren't actually making toys, what if the factories are making more SCPs? That would make them an SCP writer in a way, because there's someone who creates the SCPs. This is the most meta theory ever, in my opinion, aside from the idea that once you write about an SCP, you create one. And I love it because Dr. Wondertainment is really fun to research, and this theory is just really creative. The GOC Wood Chipper. The GOC is the Global Occult Coalition, one of the groups of interests. Anyway, the relationship between the GOC and the Foundation hinges on the fact that the GOC strives to protect humans at all costs, and the Foundation tends to focus more on research, even at the expense of human life. But anyway, onto the wood chipper. The GOC tried to destroy Anomaly 1609, a chair that could teleport anywhere it wanted. This was because GOC's primary goal is to protect humanity, and their method to do so is by eliminating all anomalies. So they put in a wood chipper, but that didn't quite work. 1609 turned into a bunch of wood chips. Once the Foundation managed to get their hands on 1609, they did their best to pacify it by using it as mulch for a garden. Personnel at the site are instructed to often compliment the flower garden and talk of the GOC as banned. SCP-049's pestilence is death itself. So I actually thought I'd already gone over this one, and I spent like 3 minutes scrolling through my research page, but then I realized I had been researching it for a different video. So yeah. Anyway, 049 is also called the Plague Doctor. They're classified as Euclid. 049 can cease all biological functions with skin contact. They have expressed reluctance and or frustration whenever the person dies, claiming they have, quote, not done enough to cure the pestilence. They often perform crude surgery on the corpse. When these surgeries are successful, they create a SCP-049-2. So this theory or idea states that the pestilence that 049 is talking about is death itself, which I think is really fun, especially given the fact that 049 cannot or will not actually give details on what the pestilence itself is. However, I have read in some Reddit threads that this is not canon, and the creator has said that the canon is that this is not in canon, but I could not find it on the website, so I don't know. Hubert. There is a specific note on the wiki regarding pronouns which will make this easier, so thank you whoever added that. Hubert's sex and gender cannot be confirmed, however, typically the pronouns it and its and him, he and him are used, so I'm just going to use them interchangeably. Hubert is an enemy in an SCP-based Roblox game. It stands in front of SCP-3008, which is an endless IKEA. Anyway, 3008 has entities inside called 3008-2s, which are like IKEA employees who attack people in the store at night. Hubert is similar to them in the fact that it tries to attack the players at night. However, it is much more powerful than them, especially on blood nights. I have no idea what those are. But the best thing about this little dude is how he looks. Hubert is a little black ball with cylinder arms and legs and a little tiny cylinder stumpy neck and a little cylinder for a head. It looks like something I would make when learning how to use 3D drawing software, and I love him. He is precious. Retro. Retros are a group of anomalies with not only the ability to kill, but the desire to do so. They are from a video game on Roblox called Midnight Horror. This group includes at least 5 killers, including 049, the Plague Doctor we just talked about, 096, Shy Guy, 106, the Old Man, 280, a humanoid shadow monster, and SCP-352, which is also called Baba Yaga. So if you know a lot about Russian folklore and stuff, you probably know who Baba Yaga is. Anyway, SCP-300 Candy. 330 is an anomaly that appears in the game. Did I say 300? I meant SCP-330, sorry. 330 is an anomaly that appears in the game SCP Secret Laboratory. 330 is a bowl of candy. Whenever a player picks up more than 2 pieces of candy from the bowl, their hands become severed and drop to the floor, and the player ends up dying from blood loss. You can, however, pick up candy that has fallen into the floor without the risk of having your limbs fall off. The candy in question has different abilities depending on the color of the wrapper. All but one of them display some kind of boost, whether it be healing or another aspect of the game. However, the pink candy causes the player to explode. With the max damage being negative 200, max damage to humans being negative 200, max damage to SCP-049-2s, negative 600, and max damage to any other SCP minus up to 20% of their hit points. Peanut stuck in SCP-012. So if you remember Peanut, he's basically shy guy, but the opposite. While extremely dangerous, Peanut cannot move under direct line of sight. Those working with him and around him are instructed to warn people when they're about to blink, and it's encouraged to wink instead of blink. Thank you, Doctor Who. Anyway, this refers to a glitch that happened in the game SCP Containment Breach, where 173 Peanut can/will teleport into/through SCP-012's containment cell. This results in the player either getting stuck, dying, or otherwise being unable to play the game. Remember I told you this Iceberg is in list of knownness, not really scary anything? Oh, this is the best one. My dad saw me typing this up and he was like, "What in the world are you doing?" How to properly praise the Holy Peanut. Well, hopefully you remember Peanut, because we just talked about him. Anyway, this is how you properly worship him. In the Lord's presence, always be sure to remind him on his good looks. Never insult the Peanut. The Peanut does not take kindly to scientists. Neither should you. Always let the Peanut in room 914. He needs his sustenance. Always let the Peanut out of any room he is trapped in. It is your mission as his disciple. If you do not die to the Peanut in an encounter with him, he is spared you. Thank him. If he kills you, you were not worthy and he was only cleansing the world. Thank him. If the Peanut is killed, avenge him. The Peanut always lives on in your heart. Never hug the Peanut without permission. It may lead to death. When asking the Peanut for permission to hug him, you must be alone. When hugging the Peanut, he will come to you. Never lose faith in the Peanut. If the Peanut is killed, it was for your sins. Love the Peanut. So, let's move on. CASSIE Words, and if you remember CASSIE from Tier 2, up by the top, you know what I mean, but if you don't, here's a quick rundown. Central I'll just put the word on the screen. Service system for internal emergencies is meant to mitigate and control emergencies at Site-02. CASSIE words refer to anything CASSIE can say. In the video game SCP Secret Laboratory, CASSIE words can be used by finding the command CASSIE words, and CASSIE is not capitalized in this command. CASSIE pronounces legal words or words allowed by the rules/user guidelines as they are spelled. Any illegal word or phrase will be skipped. CASSIE will properly say any numbers up to 1 million. To get around this, instead of writing things numerically, spell them out. 1000000 turns into 1 million. Also type "and" in manually. CASSIE can also interpret NATO numbers, which is A, Alpha, B, Bravo, C, Charlie. And the list is extremely long, which is why I'm not going into it. There is no SCP-001. So if you remember Dr. Wondertainment, you'll recall me saying that they might be SCP-001. Well, we cannot confirm or deny this, not only because we don't know that much about Dr. Wondertainment, but also because we don't even know what SCP-001 is. There are many O1 proposals for what anomaly it could be, but there isn't any confirmed O1 anomaly. There could be many reasons for this. The most popular one is that O1 is just so powerful that the Foundation can't learn anything about it, not even its name. This theory states, what if there is no O1? I mean, there are an infinite number of anomalies. What if the number O1 just hasn't been used yet? Or what if O1 is something the Foundation killed or got rid of and they're hiding it because it was deemed unethical? There are many reasons why there may not be a 01 anomaly, but this theory just states that it might not exist. RPC authority is the Chaos Insurgency. So RPC is a website that's pretty much the SCP Foundation. It was started by some people who left the SCP Foundation community in real life, not the SCP canon or whatever. They claimed it was left because of a decline in quality content on the SCP side. However, most people who are part of the SCP fandom have agreed that it was more for political reasons than quality reasons. Specifically, many people cite SCP-2721 as an example. 2721 is a very controversial anomaly due to the fact that they are trans, and most people credit these kinds of anomalies as part of the reason RPC was created. I found a Reddit that explains the reasons behind the creation of RPC better than I can, so I will link them below. Anyway, RPC is canonically explained by the suggestion that maybe it's the Chaos Insurgency, one of the groups of interest we talked about on Tier 1. The Chaos Insurgency is a splinter group from the Foundation and tends to use and weaponize anomalies to get what they want, so it makes sense, canonically, you know? Majora's Mask is a cover-up for an SCP-035 contamination breach. So Majora's Mask is a video game in the Legend of Zelda, series thing, which I have not played. I know nothing about it or Legend of Zelda besides the fact that Link is a main character and normally he wears green, I think. I'm waiting for the Zelda words. I'm gonna try and order the Zelda chip for the Switch, but it isn't here yet, so don't judge me, okay? 035 is a mask that you do not want to wear. It looks like a Greek theater mask that's smiling and has black tears running down its face and falling out of its mouth. Once you put the mask on, you basically turn into a mummified corpse, and often the person possessed ends up committing exit game permanently. I did my best to research the game Majora's Mask and found, from what I can tell, the mask parts are like power-ups for Link. I found something saying Majora's Mask is a mask that corrupts the character and made him evil. Anyway, the idea around this theory is that the game was a cover-up for 035 escaping, and that 035 is Majora's Mask. The only difference is with the style of mask, but I think we can cut them some slack considering this is an item that appears in a completely different game series / universe. I like this theory, but I don't think I can appreciate it as much as fans of the game can, considering I don't play the game. Church of the Fixed God. So the Church of the Broken God is a group of interest mentioned on the first tier. The group hates the Foundation. Their religion is based on the idea that there were two gods, one flesh and basic animalistic instinct, and one machine and intellect. They created humans in the first god, Yaldabaoth, who was the animal instinct one, decided he wanted to destroy everything man had made, so they became more animalistic like him. Machina, which sounds like Ex Machina if you ask me, the second one, shattered her body and formed a cage around it. Now Machina is waiting for her followers to put her back together so they can go fight Yaldabaoth. Oh gosh. The church seeks to make their god whole again, hence the name Church of the Broken God. I have no idea what the Church of the Fixed God is, because I can't really find it anywhere. However, I think it could mean one of a few things. The first idea is that the group may be worshipping Yaldabaoth. The god wasn't broken and can be viewed as the, quote, fixed god. Another option is they believe maybe Machina is fixed again and they're not worshipping her. The one I like the most is this one. So this is in SCP Universe. This isn't an actual thing, okay? And I'm just reading this because I could not find a way to write it out any differently without losing. I'm just reading this from the website because I couldn't figure out a way to write it down without losing what it means. So this is from the Church of the Broken God Villains Wiki. So there was a part of this church located in Iraq who managed to survive persecution by hiding in caves in 840. They're described as uncorrupted in comparison to the other branches of the church that had been in society for a while. End quote, basically. So basically, this theory states that the Church of the Broken God is no longer about the broken God, but what people want, and is just a figurehead for people to use what they want. The broken God is not broken because Machina is shattered to make a cage. The broken God is broken not because Machina is shattered to make a cage, but because her followers are no longer faithful to her mission, but to themselves. So now this little group of the church is the fixed God, because they actually worship Machina and actually stand behind her and are faithful to her mission. But I don't know. Like I said, couldn't find anything about the Church of the Fixed God, and whenever I looked it up, a bunch of Bible verses just kept showing up. This is the best I could find. I'm sorry. But as we go along, this is going to be the case more and more because, as I keep saying over and over, this iceberg is ranked by how well-known things are, so the further down we go, the more obscure it is. SCP-213 Uncensored. So 213 is a humanoid. Sometimes my sources say male, sometimes they say female, but I'm just going to go with male because that's what I see more often. That can disintegrate solid and semi-solid objects at the touch. It isn't outright said that he can do this only when he wants, but it is implied. However, he first discovered when he accidentally vaporized his girlfriend while they were doing the devil's tango. Bum, bum, bum. Please don't age restrict me, YouTube. I want to be able to watch my own videos. Anyway, vaporizing things creates a bright light and causes 213 great pain. He has had 7 escape attempts. All failed due to the immense pain that vaporizing things caused 213. 213's containment cell is surrounded by a 10-meter wide zone with gas that corrodes human skin. Personnel have been instructed to tell 213 why he is in containment with hopes of reducing security breaches, but I feel like this probably doesn't work considering the fact that he keeps trying to escape. Anyway, it was discovered that 213, the teenager, is not actually the anomaly himself, but an anomaly inside him using him as a host. Parasite shows itself via lesions on 213's skin. 213 has asked multiple times for this anomaly to be removed. However, until further notice, this request will be denied due to the unknown nature of the parasite. 213 has also tried several times to commit to exit game permanently. Blah, 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 random stuff. I can't find out what 213 Uncensored is, but I'm assuming it's out there somewhere. It probably refers to a page where there isn't anything censored or redacted, or maybe it's just a more graphic version, but I'm unable to access because I'm 18. I'm not 18 and my computer knows that or something. But I also don't really want to go too deep into that because that's how I'm going to find some really uncomfortable stuff. So if you do know what this is, please link it. In the comments, I say to the 3 people watching. Also, if it's some kind of like smut or something, please don't link it because I'm trying to keep that stuff off my tiny little platform. Thank you. Dr.Bright is a GAW spy. Remember Dr.Bright, the guy who had a list of things he couldn't do? This is the same guy. GAW stands for, and I kid you not, Gamers Against Weed. Okay, they're a group of anomalies and their associates that pretty much just hang out and chill for fun. However, lately they have been believed to be providing anomalies to left-wing political parties, something the Foundation is very against. I promise you, I really dug, and I even found a Reddit thread that talked about Dr. Bright and SCP-686, which I don't want to talk about. Anyway, I couldn't find any evidence relating to Dr. Bright being a GAW spy, but I think it's a fun idea. One could point out the fact that Dr. Bright often acts a fool and has stated that he is acting like an idiot in official report. It's stated he's acting like an idiot in official reports. However, Dr. Bright has stated that he acts like that only because he doesn't like the Foundation and because he has crippling depression. He probably doesn't like the Foundation because of the treatment of his brother and sister. But yeah, I like that idea just because I think it's fun. But yeah. SCP Secret Laboratory is a training program. So SCP Secret Laboratory is a multiplayer horror game. While I say horror game, it's horror in the way that the SCP Foundation is a bunch of horror stories. It does feature gory stuff, but also uses some very clever ways to make its monsters scarier. They don't show the monsters for the most part. What you can come up with will be the most scary for you, but not necessarily for me, so let everyone make their own monsters up. Anyway, this game utilizes a lot of things indie games use, such as lower quality lighting, so it's harder to see the characters, and to stylize the animation to be much more in the uncanny valley, which A, helps it be creepier, and B, helps save money. All in all, I think it's a good game, and you should definitely play it. But enough with me rambling about video games and about how to make scary stuff on smaller budgets. This theory or idea suggests that maybe this game isn't a game at all, but a training program. I mean, it's just what it sounds like. Yeah. The 06 Council. Remember the 05 Council, the overseers of the Foundation? This is not them. They are not mentioned in any documents. The 06 Council is not mentioned in any documents besides SCP-4023, but they are assumed to be a higher power than the 05 Council with 9 members instead of 13 or 14. Exiled, but all the letters are capitalized. So Exiled with all capital letters is a plugin for the game SCP Secret Laboratory, which adds special features to the game and overall makes it run smoother. If you want to play Secret Laboratory, you should probably download it as it'll increase your viewing experience. Hubert streams. So remember Hubert from the third tier? The guy from the Roblox that's made out of 3D shapes and whatnot? Yeah, him. I spelled yeah wrong on my script. Anyway, I couldn't find anything about Hubert streams besides people named Hubert streaming things on Twitch, and I'm assuming that's not what Hubert streams is. I'm guessing it's referring to whenever Hubert appears on someone's stream, but I couldn't find confirmation on that. Zircon 0, and then the number 0, so like it's a 0 but with number 0 instead of an O, is the gamer tag / name of the global moderator, Steam and Reddit moderator, and former official server moderator manager. Oh gosh, I really don't know why they're on this list, but they definitely deserve any and all recognition we can give them because, gosh, that's a lot of work. You can find them giving advice to people in regards to games and how to help them with technical difficulties, and they deserve all the cookies. Anyway, they're never going to see this, but on the infinitesimally small chance that they do. Thank you for all your hard work. Nadia with a question mark. I looked this up and just found a bunch of like kink anomalies and that kind of stuff, so I'm not doing that. But if you know what this actually refers to, please put it in the comments and I'll pin it, but I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, why are you here? Go play a game. And then that little like sideways V with the 3. I couldn't find anything about this, so I'm going to go with my favorite interpretation of this and say that it's for the people making the iceberg, reminding us cave-dwelling ground moles to go outside and play a game, or at least do something other than digging around Reddit. Unused grapple animation. So this is just referring to an unused animation for a grapple action, but because there are so many video games that have grapple actions, I couldn't find which game it was from. The closest I could find was a wiki page talking about content from the SCP-based video game Secret Laboratory, which I will link below, but it didn't talk about grapple animation. Hubert Ball. Ah, yes, another Hubert thing. Peanut was the thing for the first few tiers. It looks like Hubert will be the reoccurring character in the lower tiers. I looked this up, and the first thing that popped up wasn't a video of someone... What? The first thing that popped up was a video of someone playing Secret Laboratory. I can't read, gosh darn it. The first thing that popped up that wasn't a video of someone playing Secret Laboratory was a picture of a boy. I guess he's Hubert, but like a ball? I'm gonna put the photo on the screen if I can. Me actually putting a photo in one of my videos. What's going on? But anyway, I will link it below regardless of if I can or cannot get it into the video. Undertow Games. So Undertow is the designer of a lot of popular video games that depend mostly on volunteer work, I think to help keep the games free. They deserve so much credit, just like Zircon 0, so please give them all of the credit and support that you can. Chaos Christmas Train. I was doing research, and the only thing I could find about a Chaos Train was in relation to a video game where this thing called the Chaos Car would take the players to the Foundation site. A lot of people on Steam were commenting that a car felt a bit too mundane for the Foundation, and they suggested maybe they should change it to a train. There was a comment talking about how a person who designed the train left the video game company, but they did use the train for a temporary Christmas version. And I'm going to link the Steam chat thing. Megapatch 2222222. I couldn't find anything called Megapatch in all those 2s, but I did find something called Megapatch 2. I couldn't find what it was about because all the stuff was either in Chinese or there were 2 or 3 sentences of people talking about the game being kind of buggy or small changes they wanted made to the game. But yeah, I'm assuming it's a Foundation-based video game, and you should check it out because from what I can tell, the creators worked very hard on it and deserve the attention. Tier 5. And just a heads up on this one, there is one part of this list that's kind of like, mind-bendy and potentially triggering because it's like what if we live in the Matrix kind of thing? So I'm going to just give you a heads up for that one and put the timestamps on the screen when it comes up so you can just skip it. SCP-999. I have no idea why 999 is so far down this iceberg, but I'm going to pretend that the creators of the iceberg put it here so that we can have a little ray of sunshine and joy and actually think we researched something accurately, because the last 2 tiers are such a pain in the butt to find anything on. 999 is an adorable little goo monster whose favorite activity is a tickle fight, while still being able to create a bulletproof shield for you. I'm working on some videos where I go into more depth on certain SCPs, and 999 is in the script for the first one, so I'm going to move on from that. Cognity. So from what I can refine, this refers to Cognity's Playhouse, which is a website devoted to SCP stuff. They have a Discord, a YouTube channel where they do game walkthroughs and advice on hard levels and tasks, and merch. There's also a person on stream with Cognity in their username, so I don't know which this is referring to, but I will link both of them down below. Narlor. Narlor is the person who voices Cassie. I don't really have anything else to add for it, except for the fact that the person deserves a Nobel Prize because of recording that many messages in word combinations is an achievement outranking the discovery of penicillin. Also, something that is funny to me is whenever I go to copy the link in my Google Doc and then check to make sure the link worked, it keeps sending me to a page that says, there is no text in this page, which is the most SCP Foundation thing ever. Lucas Z. Whenever I looked this up, the only thing I could find that included both the name Lucas and was also related to the SCP Foundation in some way was a page about Lucas Keller. So I'm going to assume that either that was a typo that I made when I was writing down the tiers so that I could research it, or a typo by the creator of the Iceberg. It was probably a typo that I made, but in my defense, there are over 50 items, so yeah. Moving on to Lucas Keller. Lucas Keller was a Foundation agent who was assigned to guard SCP-2127-1 and presumably 2127. 2127 is an anomaly that takes the form of a paper sitting on a memorial shrine in Cleff, Germany, with the words "Who Done It" printed on it. Once someone touches 2127, they are teleported to 2127-1, which seems to be a pocket dimension replicating the farmstead, Hinterkaifeck, and the surrounding area. After 24 hours, the people who touch 2127 are returned. I'd get way more into depth about 2127, but this is about Lucas Keller, not 2127. All you need to know is there appears to be no color in 2127-1, and jazz music is always playing, because why not? Lucas Keller was unfortunately killed in action, with his death being classified and only revealed to Foundation members clearance 3 and above. This is why I could not find out how he died, or why it was classified. Presumably an entity or anomaly wanted 2127 and tried to take it, or 2127 somehow developed enough sentience to try and leave. The latter is far less likely, as 2127 has shown no signs of mobility or will to leave where it is living. Cup item. This is in the video game The Official Binding of Isaac. There is a plugin called Exoneration, which adds certain items to the player to help the players of the video game. The cup item is found by the coffee machine. I think this is referring to SCP-294, and very rarely in super secret rooms. There are 6 different kinds of cups, each with their own effects. The red cup is the cup of damage, the green the cup of luck, the purple the cup of shot speed, the yellow one the cup of speed, the orange one the cup of range, and the blue one the cup of tears. Pretty sure you can guess what each of those probably do. However, the cup of tears causes flat tears in multiplayer and a multiplayer up. What does that mean? Oh yes, okay. And the cup of tears causes flat tears and a multiplier up. Anyway, this is down here because the plugin is apparently not very well known, so go check it out if any of this sounds cool to you. The creators appear to have spent lots of time working on it, so please give it to them and give them the attention that they know. Give them the attention that they deserve. Come back later when you're smarter. I can only find something referring to this on Reddit. This post was one of those "how much do you know" things, and thank you so much to Hammer Toenail, who helped me a lot in this video without knowing it, who commented what this was. Anyway, when playing Containment Breach, if you play with SCP-914, the clockwork from Tier 1, this message pops up. This is now deleted, but originally when you repeatedly put cards on the rough setting, the narrator says, "Come back when you're a little smarter," and the game would close. Which is the best troll thing ever. And then the game would close. Wait, I already said that. And then the game would close. Unfortunately, this has been removed from the game. Gate C. As far as I can find, this is talking about an element in the game, Anomaly Breach, that has been in and out of the game. Gate C was removed from the game with its re-release, but then added back in on December 5th, 2020. Gate C is considered a part of Gate A, making Gate A the largest gate in the game. It's also the spawn point for the Nine-Tailed Fox, which is an element of a game plugin you can use. Gate C is surrounded by buildings and 2 helicopter pads, as well as a road to the parking lot that players cannot access. To get to Gate A from here, you have to go downstairs and then through an office and maintenance room. STR-512. I couldn't find anything about STR-512 that wasn't related to car tires, so I'm assuming and I'm assuming that's not going to be on an SCP Iceberg list. I could find an SCP-512, however, so that's what I'm going to talk about. If you know something else that is STR-512 that is related to the SCP Foundation, please link it below so I can pin it. I found two SCP-512s. The first is an umbrella that creates an area about 1.77 meters squared above it when opened, where gravity isn't a thing. While this is fun, I think the second one is even better. Now, SCP-512 version 2 is a chimpanzee named Pogo, because we love the Umbrella Academy. Anyway, Pogo is extremely smart and is allowed level 5 access to scientific data, including year-old research files. If Pogo, who I will now be calling Pogo, because this is my YouTube channel, I can do what I want, gets her way, she will try to reanimate SCP-619 with her mind, and the rest of the information is unintelligible due to the amount of redacted information. So, Doodle, you may be asking, why do you find this not fun? I thought you liked it when you could actually figure things out. Well, dear listener, who's definitely not asking that, I love Pogo so much because she has been created by a computer program designed to write articles to sound like an SCP article. That's right. This is one of those I made a computer watch 1,000 hours of insert cringy TV show and made them write a script for an episode kind of things. Because let's face it, as much fun as the SCP Foundation can be with its deep lore and complex stories that people spend days and days and weeks on, at the same time, because of the fact that there are so many writers, the quality fluctuates dramatically, anomaly to anomaly, and story to story. And certain anomalies can just end up getting all cliche and sounding like repeats of each other, because there are just so many. I think this is a very fun way to both celebrate and, for lack of better words, laugh at both of these elements of the Foundation. I'm going to link the generator website, but down below. Anyway, J. Crew Light Olive. So, with this one, again, I could not find anything, because J. Crew is not only an SCP thing, it's also, like, jeans and, like, men's fashion or whatever. So thank you again to Hammer Toenail. They provided a link in the comments section that sent me to a JPEG for an ad for Newsboy caps. I have no idea what this means or how it relates to anything, but I'm going to link it in the comments anyway, because I can do whatever I want. This is my YouTube channel. The Chaos Insurgency are the good guys. This one was easier to research because of previous items on the Iceberg, so thank you, Iceberg creators, for setting this up. First off, we know the Chaos Insurgency is a personal list of interests. Their goal is to stop the Foundation from achieving their goal of containing and neutralizing as many anomalies as possible. So obviously they're the main baddies in most SCP stories that involve the groups of interest like the Chaos Insurgency. This theory could mean many things. One interpretation is that they're actually the good guys, but because the Foundation controls the output of the information about them and the Chaos Insurgency, they're effectively rewriting history, painting themselves as the good guys and the Chaos Insurgency as the bad guys. The second interpretation can be read as the Foundation being in the wrong and the Chaos Insurgency are the good guys. Perhaps whatever the Foundation is doing is actually wrong and the Chaos Insurgency is trying to stop them from causing more damage. Or perhaps the Chaos Insurgency is just the lesser of two evils. It is no new concept that the Foundation is not good, but they're better than the alternative normally. So what if it's the same thing with the Chaos Insurgency, just flipped? They're still not good, but they're better than the other option. Another factor of this moral issue is we don't know much about the Chaos Insurgency or their leadership structure. We don't even know if they're a well-organized group or a bunch of loosely connected groups that don't really interact with each other. So perhaps one group is horrible, but another group isn't. And they just get help from each other from time to time because do what you gotta do, you know? So yeah, while there aren't as many resources exploring this, I think that it isn't really a thing that you can research. Besides just like looking up other people thinking about it. It's a what if that is really fun to explore and really fun to think about. You don't even need to look this up to let your mind wander and think about all the possibilities. All tales are canon. So SCP tales are short stories that are submitted by the users of the Foundation Wiki, some of which are canon and some of which are not. And let me get this straight, an SCP tale is different than an SCP itself, because an SCP itself is the anomaly where a tale is the story going along with it. And some of them are not canon, and by not canon, I mean the creator has not specified if the tale should be considered canon or not, because there are just so many writers that you can't have one person delegated to determining what's canon or not. This theory states that perhaps they're all canon. This can be taken a step farther depending on if you believe in the idea of the SCP multiverse, which is exactly what it sounds like. This theory can be used to explain why some stories that canonically take place after others may have a character who died in the story that canonically took place before it. If there are multiple dimensions or universes, it would explain why this happens. This also explains why we sometimes have anomalies that have multiple words. Yes, words. This also explains why sometimes multiple anomalies will share the same number. And it explains why a lot of stuff might not necessarily make sense. But this is about the tales. So even if, all the tales being canon in this SCP multiverse might mean that even if not all the tales are real in one of the SCP universes, others might be true in different universes, or they're just all infinite. SCP-106's pocket dimension is in Brazil. So just a heads up, anyone watching from Brazil, which I don't think there are any people watching from Brazil, but if you are, hi, hello, my name's Doodle, how's Brazil? Anyway, this is like a meme. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Anyway, so 106 is an anomaly that is pretty well known and also called the Old Man. The only thing that is relevant to this theory is that he can, quote, vanish inside solid material. It's assumed that 106 enters a pocket dimension when he does this, being able to enter and exit it at any point. 106 would be able to enter it as he is walking into the solid material and exit it wherever he wants. Anyway, this is pretty self-explanatory. The theory suggests that pocket dimension is in Brazil somewhere. I mean, Brazil is covered in almost 60% rainforest, and are you going to go in there and, scour every single inch of it? No, I didn't think so, and I'm not going to either, because that sounds like a lot of work. So who's to say that 106's pocket dimension isn't in Brazil somewhere? Again, for the most part, the theory is mostly a joke among SCP fans, but it isn't a huge thing. It's really one of those, oh, I'm a hardcore SCP fan kind of thing, where if you get it, you know you're talking to someone who is, obsessed with the SCP stuff, which is nothing wrong with that. The Sarkic cults are Catholics, so the Sarkic cults are really complicated when I try to read them, so I'm not going to read. So I'm just going to read the entire quote from my source. According to the SCP Foundation, the website, not the wiki, because those are different. SCP Foundation is literally the name of a website. Sarkism is a religious and philosophical system that encompasses a variety of traditions, beliefs, and spiritual practices largely based on teachings attributed to Grand Carsic Ion. Its deified founder. Adherents practice ritual cannibalism, human sacrifice, corporeal augmentation, thaumaturgy, and dimensional manipulation. Highly secretive, the general public appears to have no direct knowledge of their existence, the one exception being the Cot BG, who views them in apocalyptic terms. Organic manipulation has allowed certain sarcicities to achieve anomalous states of being, transcending the physical limitations of baseline humans. Disease is viewed with reverence, and Sarkic shrines have been covered with offerings of swollen lymph nodes and tumorous growths. Sarkic cults treat contagion as a consecration, a means to cull the weak and purify the masses, and thus actively seek to ensure their spread. The Foundation divides Sarkic cults into two distinct strands, proto-Sarkic and neo-Sarkics. Proto-Sarkic cults can be found in insular communities throughout Eurasia's most isolated regions, its followers generally poor, if self-reliant, and hostile towards outsiders. Such groups eschew modernity, display acute technophobia, and no, that's not a fear of Technoblade, that's a fear of technology, and are bound by superstition and taboo. In contrast, neo-Sarkic cults are compliant, publicly embracing modernity and showing no apparent qualms with technology, their public lives differing little from others of their culture and social status. Adherents are primarily affluent families, rich in history and scandal. Ultimately, it's believed that the Foundation only knows a fraction of what Sarkism is and what the followers intend. Based on the available information, the speculated goals of Sarkic cults represent an SK class domination shift, including the possibility of a XK class end of the world scenario. So hopefully you see why I can't find a way to combat that. Couldn't find anything about this from any Reddit source, so this is just a bit of guesswork. I think this is just people drawing similarities to the Catholic Church, such as the ritualistic cannibalism mirroring the idea of communion. And let me just say this real quick. I'm not saying anything about Catholicism is good or bad. I'm just explaining the theory. Please don't get into religious politic wars in my comment section. I say again to my 3 viewers, as someone who is Christian themselves, I think this is kind of funny, but this is not intended to insult anyone. It's just mostly a joke. SCP-096 and SCP-106 are related. So I touched on 096 extremely briefly when I was talking about Retro, the group of murderous SCPs from Tier 3. Anyway, the old man will try and kill anyone who sees his face, although he is extremely docile when his face remains unviewed. And I believe this just refers to seeing his actual face, not a picture, but I can't remember. 106 is the anomaly we just talked about with the pocket dimension. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think. It says it right in the title. Anyway, I couldn't find much about this. However, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. They're only 10 numbers away from each other, and while that doesn't necessarily mean they're related, it is an interesting coincidence. Another thing is their art is similar when you look at the photos on the wiki. That, again, doesn't mean they're related, but it's a very interesting coincidence. They're also similar in that, while not outright violent necessarily, they're fantastic at killing. I don't know. Maybe this is a good theory, maybe it isn't, but I really like it. SCP-2700's YK class scenario has already happened. SCP-2700 was supposedly created by Nikola Tesla, and I love that fact. Long story short, if 2700 YK class scenario happens, it could/would reduce the entire universe into an infinite energetic singularity, so basically an inverse Big Bang. This theory states, that it already happened. I couldn't really find a bunch of stuff about this, but I think that's an interesting idea. Dr. Wendertainment is an inside job for the Foundation to allocate more international government funding. We've talked about Dr. Wendertainment before on this list, so I'm not really going to get into them. This theory states that maybe our lovable doctor is an inside job for the Foundation so they can get more government funding. Maybe Dr. W is creating more anomalies so that the Foundation will get more funding from the government so they can do what they want. I don't know how plausible this theory is, but I sure do like it. Alright, heads up, this is the one that I was talking about that is kind of like a Are We in the Matrix one. So if you're not necessarily, if that stuff you can't listen to right now, totally understand, skip ahead to the time screen on the video. This is, so you are an SCP. This theory states that, you're an SCP. I mean, think about it. Most humanoid anomalies are sentient beyond the point of kill everything. Either don't know that they're an SCP until their anomalous properties are revealed, or the Foundation does their best to keep them pacified so they aren't hostile. If you're an SCP, you wouldn't know because your anomalous properties haven't been revealed. Or maybe you're at a Foundation site right now and you're just making this all up. Maybe I'm not watching a Harry Potter movie while sitting in the back of the room working on this like some weirdo. Maybe I'm making that all up. Who knows? Yeah, I think this one is interesting, but at the same time, I don't like it. As a writing prompt or a part of a story, I really enjoy these kinds of things, but at the same time, I don't like them because they make my head hurt. Moving on. SCP-106 is a Lovecraftian deity. If you're not familiar with the term Lovecraftian, it refers to things relating to the author H.P. Lovecraft, who was famous for writing scary stories where the horror element was divulged from the idea of the unknown. Pretty much all the evil beings are incomprehensible horrors that do incomprehensible things. Urban Dictionary defines Lovecraftian, and by the way, I'm using Urban Dictionary because the other thing just said of relation to H.P. Lovecraft, which doesn't explain anything. So anyway, Urban Dictionary defines Lovecraftian as 1. A story where the protagonist stumbles upon things man was not meant to know, and ends up telling the story either from within an insane asylum or from a journal he kept that is discovered after he mysteriously disappears, or 2. Any story containing a Lovecraftian creature. End of the quote, by the way. And just to give you a heads up, Lovecraft normally slimy, gross tentacle octopus beings from the deep kind of thing. A lot of the times stuff smells like fish. I don't know. Anyway, now that we know what Lovecraftian means, what is SCP-106? Well, I hope you remember this because we talked about him 3 topics ago, but he's the pocket dimension SCP. This idea states that perhaps 106 is a Lovecraftian being, and I mean it does fit. We can't really comprehend the idea of something having a pocket dimension or being able to travel and transport or whatever. We have no idea where he goes. And what I find perfect about this is the fact that H.P. Lovecraft created the first open universe, and guess what the SCP universe is? Yeah. Anyway. Herobrine is SCP-001. We all know who Herobrine is, right? He's that creepypasta thing that looks like Minecraft Steve, except for the all-white eyes. Yeah. Anyway, I might do a video more specifically into him, but not right now, because this video is already long enough as it is. We have no idea who or what 001 is, because we just don't know. And it's believed that we don't know because knowing about 01 gives him more power. Maybe SCPs get strong. Many SCPs get stronger and are when they are either thought about or seen. So instead of having one 01 proposal, 01 anomaly, we may have many 01 proposals. And Herobrine is one of them. And I love this. So I'm officially deciding this. This is canon. I, Doodle, with no authority over any of this, and who has never created anything that's actually canon, declare this canon. Dr. Dark. So you know how we have Dr.Bright? Well, say hello to Dr.Bright, Dr. Dark, his arch rival. I found 2 different Dr. Darks, both on aminos, so I have no idea which one is specifically Dr. Bright's arch nemesis. Iris Dark is someone who dislikes the Serpent Hand, something Dr. Bright is like the leader of by wacky hijinks. She also likes Dr. Wondertainment, who may or may not be working for or against the Foundation. She was also raised with the mindset that she must sell any anomaly she comes across, so that's what she does, even going so far as to infiltrate the Foundation to steal anomalies to sell. That would make her a great candidate for Dr. Bright's arch nemesis as she fights against what he strives to do. He wants to help contain other anomalies to protect them and other people, while Dr. Iris Dark focuses on increasing her profit at any cost necessary. The other Dr. Dark could possibly be Dr. Iris Dark's father, but we don't really know. Anyway, this Dr. Dark is pretty hard to research, considering the fact that he is, in canon, an expert hacker, and therefore retroactively hacking pretty much everything about him that I could find. The main thing I could find that he was a megalomaniac who's bent on destroying the Foundation, which I think makes him a great option for Dr. Bright's arch nemesis. And Rin. Say thank you again to Hammer Toenail for this one. Rin was someone who worked for Northwood, which is an SCP YouTube channel / site on the internet, who was famous for busting and banning cheaters. I also saw someone say that they were a pedo, but I couldn't find any evidence for that, and I couldn't find the comment again, so no idea. Tier 6. And I cannot express how happy this makes me because I've been spending so much time on this and researching it. Now I've been spending a lot of time recording it. So let's just enjoy this, right? Super dope, all caps locks. So this is talking about in Containment Breach, there's an SCP-079 that has super dope in all caps locks written on it. Thank you yet again to the Reddit user Hammer Toenails for this, because I, while finding some stuff relating to it, could not actually find what it is. I couldn't find if super dope was just the thing written on it or what. So it's just a 079 that has the word super dope written on it in caps locks if you go and look for it. I think this is how you pronounce it, but I'm not quite sure. Nao, it's N-A-O, so if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry. This was really hard for me to find. I think part of it is because this far down on the list, of course, is going to be obscure, but this also means no in Portuguese, so whenever I looked up SCP and then now it would be a bunch of YouTube videos going like, no, I can't believe this happened, SCP, whatever. Anyway, this information is brought to you by real_JohnO'Don. So thank you very much, real_JohnO'Don. Apparently, now is the developer for Exiled, who was banned from an Exiled Discord, which is kind of ironic if you get banned from a Discord titled Exiled. Anyway, I couldn't find why they got banned, but they did. Decontamination 1130. This refers to the fact that in a video game, Secret Laboratory, there's a decontamination sequence. This is supposed to take 15 minutes, however the timer in the animation is too quick and therefore inaccurate and only takes 11 minutes and 30 seconds. And this information is brought to you, yet again, by Hammer Toenail. MSK Host. From what I could find, this was relating to a server website that, hosted servers. Yeah. They were stealing users' data and were hacked by hacktivists who gave the data to the police. And then Willshine, the final one. This is a hidden text on micro-HID. Willshine is translated from the octal 1671511540154040163150151156145, which is actually the original text. the original hidden text. I couldn't find anything about this besides just that little information I told you, so thank you to Dado_Hampter for this information. And that wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Wow, I'm non-binary and I didn't think that through. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening. It means a lot to me. If you stuck around this long, I'm assuming you liked the video, so please consider giving it a like and subscribing and sharing it with any of your friends that you think might enjoy it. Anyway, have a nice day or night or noon or whatever, or afternoon or whatever time it is whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time. Bye!